what had happened, how long I'd been in a coma, because the doctors had said it was going to be for a couple of weeks. Ended up being more than 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
I think it's that inner drive. I think I've always had that.
Right. Yes.
And being a teacher, I think when I was at school, the children would come and say to me, "Miss Sarai, I can't do this." I was like, "There's no such thing as I can't." I says, "We'll find a way.
Yeah.
We'll find a way. You can do it. We'll just find a way to do it." Because up to that point, I was just sitting at home. Shall I leave my job? Shall I not leave my job?
Right.
And not really being able to plan ahead.
Yes.
So once that decision had been made, I felt like I was, in a way, a weight had been lifted, and I could move on.
Welcome to Real People, Real Results, Real Change, the podcast that's dedicated to helping real people develop real health and fitness in their lives. Real people like you, business owners, professionals, house husbands and housewives, and students. I'm Stefan, I'm a personal wellness coach at UFit Studio, and I'll be your host. In this episode, I'm talking with Bally Sarai, a retired teacher whose focus in life is to look after her health and that of her family's health. She's living an enriched lifestyle, which she finds fulfilling, joyful, and meaningful. In this episode, we talk about Bally's incredible journey from serious illness to regaining a high level of health, fitness, and personal wellness again. Okay, Bally, thanks so much for joining me for this episode, and I'm really excited to talk with you. Obviously, we have talked before,
Yes,
right?
we have, yeah.
But what I wanted to dig into really with this episode was you've been on a very personal journey.
Yeah.
In terms of like health, fitness, and confidence, and you've built yourself up over time in so many different ways, and you've faced challenges, but you've also overcome challenges, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit, especially some of the things that you've discovered about yourself and discovered about like a mindset that works sort of over time and that sort of thing. But I don't know, sort of back before all of this,
Yeah.
right? What was different? What was it like?
Okay. So, I was a full-time teacher as an assistant head at one of the local primary schools, and I loved my job, and I just went to work every day like normal. My 2 kids were both at university, and I just got suddenly taken ill. So before that, my life was normal, everyday family life.
Yeah.
And then my turning point for me, I think, was when I became poorly about 8 years ago. I ended up severely ill in hospital, in a coma.
Okay.
And when I came out of the coma, I was in a wheelchair for a long time. And I think that for me really made me think about my health.
Yeah.
And the impact that one episode had in my life was life-changing, not just for me, but for all of my family.
Yeah.
So I went to work one day, and I felt poorly for about 2-3 months. I had a chesty cough. I thought it was just a flu.
Yeah.
Kept taking antibiotics. And 2 months later, I couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
And I rang the doctor, and then ended up going into hospital.
Yeah.
They wanted to do some x-rays. They checked me, and they said I had severe pneumonia. And from there, I think my life completely changed. Everything was flipped over. And I was in a coma for about 3-4 months.
Wow.
Goodness.
And because how old were you at this time?
I was 47 at the time.
Okay.
So, I was 47 at the time. And it just happened so suddenly. It happened so suddenly. And my family were there with me, supporting me through all of that. But obviously I wasn't aware of what was going on around me, because I was asleep for a long time.
Yes.
And when I woke up, I'd had a lot of serious operations. I lost all my mobility. And I couldn't remember very much about what had happened. But for me, it was mentally. I think physically, my body had completely just packed in. I'd lost all my muscles. Lying still in a hospital bed, you lose all your muscles.
Right.
I lost my hair. My hair had fallen out. I couldn't even eat. My daughter would come and spoon feed me, and I'd been fed through tubes through my nose. When I woke up from my coma, I had 20 machines attached. So for me, the fight wasn't just physically, it was mentally trying to understand what had happened.
Yes.
because I couldn't actually speak at the time.
Yeah.
What had happened, how long I'd been in a coma, because the doctors had said it was going to be for a couple of weeks. Ended up being more than 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And getting myself back, and the doctors, when I woke up, the doctors had said to me, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. This is going to be like for the fight of your life.
Okay.
They said your family have been through all the trauma of witnessing you being so poorly, and they said now it's time for you to show us what you're made of, basically.
Right.
And I remember at that time I could barely speak. I think it was about 4 weeks after I'd woken up, and they'd taken the tubes out, and the doctors had said, and I said to them, I said, I'll show you. I said, I'll show you. I said, I'll do it. I said, I'll show everyone that I can do this.
Yeah.
But even at the time, the doctors had said they weren't convinced that I'd be back on my feet. They said that, there might be a possibility that I might never walk again, and I'd be on oxygen support for my lungs because I'd lost 25% of both of my lungs.
Right. Yeah.
I had a series of major laparotomies in my stomach. My wounds had been left open. I was a mess.
Yeah.
I was a complete mess when I woke up.
Wow.
And I think the doctors had said to me, they said it's personality. I think it's what motivated me, what pushed me to do it, and it was my husband and my children and my family, because I knew how much they'd suffered. I knew how much they'd suffered, seeing me like that for 4 months, every day being told that I wasn't going to survive.
Yes.
And it was to show to them, I said, I will get better, because I knew how worried they were about me.
Wow.
And also, I think being surrounded by, I have a very big family, and I have a lot of support from my family, my uncles, aunts, my cousins, my friends. I have a very big network of people around me, and they all supported me through it. I think if I was on my own, I think it would have been a different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because I was surrounded by so many people, and they'd come and see me every day, and my mum moved in, my family were there all the time, I think that's what motivated me. I thought, come on, let's go for a walk today. Let's take 2 steps today. Let's take 4 steps. And I think it's that inner drive. I think I've always had that.
Right. Yes.
And being a teacher, I think when I was at school, the children would come and say to me, Miss Sarai, I can't do this. I was like, there's no such thing as I can't. I said, we'll find a way.
Yeah.
We'll find a way. You can do it. We'll just find a way to do it. And there were a couple of times when I said to my son and my daughter and my husband, I said, I'm in so much pain. I can't do this. I can't do this. And they're like, remember, Mum, what you used to say to us? And my husband was like, come on, remember what you say to us. And they say, we will find a way to do it. And I did. So once I got myself back on my feet, the second hurdle for me was be sitting in a wheelchair for almost 2 years. I'd put on a lot of weight.
Yeah. That's a long time.
That was a long time, yeah. And I think I became reliant on it. That's the worrying thing.
Okay.
I became reliant on the wheelchair. So when I got to the point where I was, my son would come home every day, he's a doctor, and he would say, Mum, how many steps have you taken today? Right, do another 50 today, do another 10 tomorrow, But by the time I was walking, I could walk around the house, I was still said, look, let's get the wheelchair out and take me to Tesco's in the wheelchair. And they said, no, they got rid of the wheelchair. And then I started walking a lot more.
Right.
But, sitting at home, the other thing was, I took retirement. I had to end up taking ill health retirement from my job. I absolutely love my job.
Yeah.
So as well as not being well, I had to make some really big decisions. And I was grieving. I was grieving for the life I had, for my health. I was grieving for my job. I didn't know if and when I'd be able to go back to work again. I mean, they were amazing. They kept my job open for 2 years. They kept my job open for 2 years. We had HR meetings. And ultimately, it was my decision. I decided with my family and with the school and with the union reps, and everybody was involved, that for me, health-wise, I just wasn't able to go back to work at that time.
Yeah.
So I took ill health retirement.
Yeah.
But even for me to make that decision, I think it would have been harder if the school had told me that, that's it, we can't really keep you on.
Yes.
But it was my decision, and I'm so glad that I made that decision and it wasn't taken away from me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a hard one.
Yes.
Leaving a career, a job that you've loved, you've trained for, to be a teacher. I was working my way up to, being a head, an assistant head, and all of a sudden having to make those decisions while I was still in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have gone back as a teacher and I would have been classed as disabled, disability. They would have put some ramps in for me.
Yeah.
But health-wise, I wasn't sure if I wanted to take the risk of going back into a school environment.
Yes.
Not being well already, losing 25% of my lungs and then getting poorly again.
Yeah.
So that was a hard decision. But so once I'd made that decision, I did feel that I could actually move on with my life a little bit. Because up to that point, I was just sitting at home. Shall I leave my job? Shall I not leave my job?
Right.
And not really being able to plan ahead.
Yes.
So once that decision had been made, I felt like I was, in a way, a weight had been lifted, and I could move on. And then once I'd made that decision, then it was like, right, I need to sort my health out now.
Okay. Yep.
Sitting at home in a wheelchair, not doing very much, and not really socialising, and being a bit scared to go out. And I had 5 stones to lose.
Okay.
I put on quite a lot of weight.
Yep.
So my weight was up and down. So when I went in my coma, I'd lost all my weight.
Right. Yeah.
I was just like bones when I came out. And then when I sitting at home and my friends would come and let's bake a cake, Bally, let's do this. And my mum would come and feed me and things like that. I put a lot of weight on. And then that was when I decided that I need to get my health right, because not just my health, I was looking at my children and my husband.
Right.
And we'd all sort of let ourselves go just because of the fact that they were just so focused on me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get healthy. I just wanted to get as strong as I would, because I knew that if I ever ended up back in hospital, I was not going to stay there for another 4 or 5 months next time.
Right.
I was going to go there and come straight back out again, because I've still got complications. I've gone back into hospital again, but it wasn't nowhere near as long as the first time.
Okay.
And so I joined Slimming World. I joined Slimming World. I tried Weight Watchers before. I joined Slimming World, and that was okay. I got to a point where I'd lost about 2.5 stones, and that made me feel better. I'd go out for walking. I'd walk. I was walking a lot more, but I wasn't training. I wasn't doing any strength or fitness. I'd go to the gym maybe once a week. I was a member at the local gym, and I'd find excuses not to go.
Okay.
I just wanted to just walk. I enjoyed my walking and losing, and I'd lost this weight. So I'd got stuck about 2.5 stones I'd lost, and my weight was just stuck. I wasn't moving. Then I got a personal trainer, and I wasn't really getting anywhere with that either.
Okay.
It's just it's just like a private personal trainer, and I wasn't really impressed with what I was doing. I was having 2 personal training sessions. I was spending a lot of money with the gym and personal training, and my weight had just plateaued. And then I'd looked online, and I think, well, where's somewhere local where I could go? And then I saw one of the YouFit challenges, the YouFit Studio challenges. And I gave them a call. I went in, I spoke to Sam, and that for me was a big turning point, because up until that point I'd never really thought about my mental well-being. It was all about, let's get walking, let's get fit, let's get walking, let's get fit. And I hadn't really listened to podcasts or thought about meditation or yoga, nothing.
Yeah.
I would do my prayers in the morning, but that was it, and about the gratitude journal and things like that. And all of that, I learned over the next, year and a half. And everything that they were saying to me, I took it all on board. And I think I didn't realise at the time, but I needed to work within myself as well.
Okay.
And I started doing everything they asked us to do. I started my gratitude journal, and I'm still doing that now. It's been, 4 years, and I haven't missed a day.
Wow.
And I write down every day 3 things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
So all of these things, like the meditation, I meditate in the evenings, and I listen to so many podcasts as well. I go through a phase when I listen to podcasts, and then I read books, and then I go back to podcasts. But I think I've got myself now exactly, I think, where I want to be. But I've learnt so much through all of that time.
Yeah. And been putting it into practice.
I'm putting it into practice. That's a big thing. I think sometimes, I could listen to podcasts day in, day out, but unless I'm putting them into practice, I'm not really learning. I'm not really moving on. So it's all about, and I was listening to one a couple of days ago, it's about being present. I think I was so focused on worrying about the past and thinking about what I'd gone through, or worrying about the future.
Right.
I wasn't actually thinking about where I was now and how far I'd come,
Okay.
and how good my life actually really is.
Yeah.
And with me, I think it was more about putting everything into practice. So my morning routine changed completely. I'm doing the gratitude journal every day. I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. I meditate, I do my prayers, and also yoga and things like that. And the podcasts have really helped.
Yeah.
And I think, you can learn so much just from those, but also one of the books, initially I thought one of the first books that Sam asked us to read, because I did the 6-week challenge at YouFit Studio. I did the 6-week challenge, and I think it was drop a dress size, and we were given some books to read, and the first book that I read was Feel the Fear.
Okay.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
And in there's like halfway through the book, I was reading, and then there's halfway through the book, there's this box, and there's a big box, and there's 9 little small boxes in there. There's things like community and family and love and things that you enjoy and leisure and all of that. And then one box, and you write down things then that you do in each box. Then one box there was completely empty, and that was the service one. Like giving to the community, the charity.
Yes.
That's, and I wasn't doing that. And I'm thinking there's got a massive gap in that in my life where I'm not actually giving to anybody else. And Stefan, and we read books and we listen to podcasts. That is one of the most rewarding things that you can do in your life, is to give to others. And then I started a whole new chapter of my life where we started doing some charity work with one of the local, it's an international charity anyway, it's called the Midland Lunga Seva Society, where we started off initially feeding the homeless, but now with lockdown and everything, it's a lot more than that. We're feeding the vulnerable. And so my husband and I decided that every Sunday, and we've dedicated every Sunday to support this charity where we've had our garage converted, and we've got cookers in there and hot water and everything in there. It's got a proper kitchen in my garage.
Right.
And we cook for about 150 people every Sunday.
It's amazing.
And that's really, I feel, for me, I think that gives my life a little bit more meaning.
Yeah.
I think, to look at me, you think, Bally's done really well, but I think the mental side of it is the side where, I've had to fight so many other battles that people can't see.
Yes.
And I think with that is that I've got a purpose in life. When you're a teacher, assistant head, you've got the children looking up to you, you've got the staff, you've got the parents.
Yep.
And from all of that, all of a sudden, going to a life when you've got nothing.
Yeah.
I just felt like I was just sitting at home.
Yeah.
Would I even be able to walk again? I couldn't even go to sleep upstairs in my bedroom. I was sleeping on a mattress downstairs.
Yes.
On one of those fold-up beds because I couldn't climb the stairs.
Yeah.
I think, where is my life going now?
Yep.
And it took a lot of strength. It took a lot of inner strength. And I think I got my strength from my family, from my children.
Yeah.
I wanted to show them that you don't have to worry about me. I will be okay. You need to move on with your lives, because I think everyone around me, their life was on standby, on standstill sort of, because they didn't know what to do because they're just so busy on me. So I thought, don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself and I'll show you, and then you can get on with your lives.
Yeah.
And so my daughter Gina, she was just then have finished her second year at uni, and I became so she finished her final year. And my son, and they both graduated the following year. My son carried it forward, and so I got to see both of them graduate. But I think this what I've been through is not just a lesson for me. And I've read this, and I didn't really think about it before, but now I think over time I'm just realizing that it's life is what you make it. Thinking, and if I can make myself better, and then showing my children that, and it's had a knock-on impact on them as well.
Yes.
Because with me, looking after my health and going to the gym and getting better, and even the doctors astounded. They said, we don't know how you got better. We don't know how you got yourself from where you are, because they'd more or less written me off. They were ready to switch my machines off when I was in a coma. They said that there's nothing else we can do. And the only thing they said to my family that one night when I had my last operation was, pray to whoever it is that you believe in, and because it's out of our hands now. And then after, the doctors actually said that we didn't believe in how strong the power of prayer was until they met my family, because on the day when the doctors were going to switch my machines off, there was 35 members of my family were sat in the prayer room at Glenfield Hospital praying.
Wow.
And the following day I started getting better.
That's incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
And so where are you now, like in terms of your sort of health and fitness?
So my health and fitness now is completely, everything's been flipped over from not being able to walk. I do 25,000 steps most days. So I go to the walk. So the new studio is in town. So from my house to the studio is about 11,000 steps. So most days I walk. I walk to the gym, 11,000 steps. I train for an hour and a half with all my stretches, and then I walk back. So completely different level now. I'm fitter than I've probably ever been before.
Amazing.
My lungs, even though I've lost 25%, what I have got is 100% now. They're working at 100% capacity, even though they are smaller than they should be. And I train at least 5 times a week.
And what kind of training is
So
that?
I do strength training. I do train with a coach. The coach is at the studio with Helen and Sam and Luke, Tia and Ash. So I train with the coaches, and I do 2 bike sessions. And Helen's given me a target of 600 calories. I need to burn on those sessions. 600 calories.
Yep.
And I'm trying to increase my speed on that and try and increase my speed so I do it quicker. So I'm pushing myself on that. And then once a week I do a MET class, which is like a high intensity, very hard classes. But they're so much fun because I like the fact that the pairs up in partners, and you've got a little bit of competition going on with the other team on the other side. So I do 1 MET class, 1 session with a coach, 2 bike sessions, and 2 strength sessions on my own.
Yeah. So you've come so far since you were ill.
Yeah,
right?
I've come so far completely. Like I'm saying, it's all been flipped over.
Incredible. So what would you, to someone listening who, like everyone faces challenges at some point in their life, like greater or small, but like what have you learned from that in terms of I guess how you face those challenges, or how you, how do you approach those? How do you build yourself up?
So with me, I knew I wanted to get myself as fit. I just knew. And I think a lot of people do want that, don't they? They want to be fit and healthy.
Yeah.
And for me, I had to prioritise, because there's other things I could have been doing. But I think, my health, I need to prioritise my health. And for me, it was small steps. If I'd thought at the end of it that, if I was sitting there thinking when I was in a wheelchair, do you know what, I'm going to end up walking 25,000 steps, I'm going to train 6 times a week, I'm going to do high intensity, that wasn't even in my radar.
Yeah.
My goals at that time were, right, if I can get from here to the end of that, to that door today, that's my thing, and then I'd maybe take another 10 extra steps tomorrow.
Yes.
And then take another, I can do 15 steps the following day. And it was very, very small steps. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to go up to the end of the driveway.
Right.
And then up to the end, to the first lamppost. And that's what we did. And my mum would be with me, and my kids would come from work, and my husband, and they would and then it's like around the block.
Yeah.
And they let me do that a little bit further.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was doing a lot of physio.
Mm-hmm.
And when a little baby comes to visit you, and my physiotherapist had given me a half a kg dumbbell to do that. And I put it on the side. The baby came up and picked it up. I think I need to push myself harder so the baby can lift it up more than I think. And I was like, look at me, I'm training. And I think it's setting yourself little goals. It's those little goals.
Right.
The little goals. But for me, I think, I know people talk about motivation. Is there such thing as motivation and determination and things like that? Does it exist, or is it, For me, it was. It is. For me, it was. I was so focused on getting myself better.
Yeah.
I wanted to get myself better.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, I didn't want to sort of hobble around with a walking stick. I wanted to. And it's that finding that something. And for me, it was my family.
Yeah.
I had my family.
Amazing. So, yeah, So you had that focus.
Yeah.
You had that why, I guess.
Yeah, I had that why, things like that why, yeah.
And you built it up little by little by
little.
But you never stopped by the sound.
But I never stopped. And even now, I'm not stopping now either.
Right.
Even now, I'm always, trying to improve myself. And I have my one-to-ones with my coach, Helen. And, we're planning on, what's my next goal. And even during lockdown, I trained hard during lockdown, we did, and with my daughter. And I think we're always learning, aren't we?
Right.
We're always learning. And for me, one of the biggest things I've learnt is about living in the now. And not focusing too much on worrying about the future or worrying about the past. It's about being present.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important things I've learned. Every morning I can get up and I can list 20 things I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
There might be negatives as well, but I don't try and think too much about them. I focus on the positives.
Yeah.
And it's something that Sam said at the studio as well. And he said it a few times. He's like, we can create our happiness. Now, when you say that to someone, people are thinking, well, you can't really.
Yeah.
But for me, I've found a way to do it. I found a way to create my happiness. I can do things that will make me happy during the day. And that's what I focus on.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, such an inspiring story. We're going to talk again next episode, but thank you so much for talking with me this time, and I look forward to that, Bally.
And me too. Thank you, Stefan. It's been a pleasure.